I will now call the January 10th, 2023 City Council meeting to order at 5:59. Will you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Following the November general elections, we are going to start tonight's meeting by administering the oath of office to our newly elected officials, not nearly, newly elected officials. Sammy? Move everything around on there.
So raise your right hand and repeat after me.
My other right hand. Yes, okay.
I, Nancy Bell.
I, Nancy Bell,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Oregon,
and of the state of Oregon,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
faithfully perform the duties of mayor for the city of Coburg,
faithfully perform the duties of mayor for the city of Coburg
during my continuance therein.
during my continuance therein.
And this I do swear, so help me God.
And this I do swear, so help me God. Thank you.
Now we have 3 city councilors and Wi-Fi and DM at the same time. So if you guys all come on up.
So is this a memory test or do we get to read this?
It's a memory test, John.
Okay. But I do have everybody's here. Yeah. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your.
Amy Goodredson,
Do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of the state of Oregon,
and of the state of Oregon.
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
I will, to the best of my ability,
faithfully perform the duties of city councillor for the city of Coburg,
faithfully perform the duties of city councillor
during my continuance therein.
during my continuance therein.
And this I do swear, so help me God.
I do swear, so.
Congratulations.
help me God.
And we have one more.
And that's right.
Was administrative years and then passed an ordinance, what, 2 years ago, but and then as an officer with our new city charter that the voters passed. As an officer of the city. Perfect. Please raise your right hand. I, Ann Heath, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, state of Oregon, and that I will, to the best of my ability, faithfully perform the duties of city administrator for the city of Coburg, during my continuance therein. This I, or so help me God.
This is always very exciting on the first meeting of the year and particularly after an election year. So I'm happy to stand before you tonight as the newly elected mayor of Coburg. I want to thank you, first of all, for coming tonight, and thanks to those of you who trusted me with your vote. I am truly humbled by your support. While being mayor was never on my bucket list, I am honored to serve you and will do to the best of my ability, the very best for Coburg, by always putting the needs of the community first. Not necessarily always the needs of the individual, but the needs of the community. It is not my goal to be a politician, but to be a leader. The difference between a politician, the difference is a politician focuses on the next election, but a leader focuses on the next generation. And I think we have many people in this room that really, truly exemplify that. So this is the state of the city address. And so the first question that comes to mind is, what is the state of the city of Coburg? Well, first and foremost, I want to tell you that Coburg has weathered some challenging times over the last few years, but it has come through in good shape. We have survived a pandemic, community growth, the death of family members, and also a death of a beloved community member, a leader, and our mayor for the last 6 years. All of these things occurred without disruption to city services. This was due to a strong city council, dedicated volunteers, and well-trained and equally dedicated city staff. I think we can be proud of each and every one of our staff, our volunteers, and our council. As we begin 2023, Coburg has a population of just over 1,300 people and approximately 85 licensed businesses. There are 17 full-time staff, and we contract for the services of a city attorney, city engineer, a municipal judge, an IT specialist, and some city planning assistance as needed. We also have many volunteers serving on city council, on planning commission, on budget and financial oversight committees, parks and tree committee, the heritage committee, and I anticipate reactivating the transportation committee this year. Our Main Street businesses and industrial areas are thriving. Unlike many small cities that you all have seen, that you walk down Main Street and there are shuttered businesses and boarded up stores. Ours is thriving in large part to our strong community working closely with strong city government. Our economic base is healthy. Financially, our general fund is in positive territory, and growth, yes, growth. I know that's not always a popular word, but growth has been and will be managed thoughtfully to allow Coburg to provide essential services and to continue as a vibrant community while preserving our small town charm. So what are some of the changes that occurred in Coburg in 2022? I'm just going to go over a partial list because Ann is going to go over more of those changes in slightly more detail in a few minutes. So we've had a return of festivals and events, which has been a very exciting thing for all of us living in Coburg. It was a tough couple of years without any face-to-face time to party together. We've hired a 4th police officer, and we also utilize
8 reserve officers. I think I have that number correct, do I, Chief? The streets were preserved, repaired, and in some places replaced with the addition of sidewalks to improve pedestrian safety. We were able to accomplish this mostly because of the implementation of the TUF, the transportation utility fee, city gas tax, and state and federal funding and grants. Funding was also secured for the continuation of the Coburg Loop biking and walking path. That was not started in 2022. Trees were trimmed, preserved, and sadly, they sometimes had to be removed. In order to preserve the beauty of the city, many were also planted. So for every tree that comes out, there's at least one tree that goes back in. Water lines were repaired, replaced, and added. A line was placed under the freeway to provide water to the east side of our community. A third well is being dug to ensure that in this time of water scarcity, Coburg will continue to have adequate resources. The urban growth boundary was expanded and 107 acres was annexed into the city to provide for growth opportunities in light industry near the freeway. Every community needs a strong economic base, and as development occurs, this will maintain ours. We also had the Coburg Creek housing development started, bringing new families to Coburg. This growth helps ensure sufficient funding for the services we provide, adds new faces and ideas to our town, and provides the customers for downtown businesses to continue to thrive. City Hall saw some major upgrades also. So you probably all noticed the new facade, but we also had windows replaced that were leaking. There was additional office space added, and there were tech upgrades to allow better community involvement in public meetings. So tonight we're being live streamed, and it also is going on YouTube. Hope you all can hear me tonight because we've added microphones, so we all are using those. Even though I have sort of a loud voice, I do sometimes need a microphone. We also, you all voted on a city charter that was developed and then was approved by you as voters. And there were significant community input and resources went into the development and implementation of new downtown zoning. So what's next? Well, it doesn't seem like there could be much next, I don't think, but there will be. There will be completion of many more water projects. There will be park development and improvements, including the development of a plaza in Pavilion Park. There will be more projects to repair and upgrade our streets, so watch for those signs. New and improved fiber optic projects will be improving our broadband and wireless infrastructure, and probably will be offering new providers within the city. There's problem solving with state and county agencies related to increased traffic through Coburg. We hear a lot about the increased traffic in Coburg, and it's true. I don't think any of us can stand on the sidewalk and watch the traffic go and not go, wow, that's really increased. We're also continuing conversations regarding improvement to the I-5 interchanges. And there is slow but steady population growth. I heard quite a while ago that if we're not moving forward, we're slipping backwards, that we can't just stay the same. I think we can look around many of our communities within our region or as we travel around the state, and we see cities shrinking. When cities stop growing, they do begin to shrink. And I don't think we want Coburg to be one of those cities that just is a bypass community. So Coburg will remain vibrant, stable, and a livable community because people care about issues and each other. People make Coburg what it is. Without you, We're just a collection of houses and buildings. People make Coburg. Thank you for coming tonight, sharing your talents in so many ways. And we wish you a happy and healthy new year. But don't leave yet. So our next order of business will be presentation of the Citizen of the Year. So I'm going to give a brief introduction, and then we'll introduce you to the Citizen of the Year. So our first citizen for 2022 is someone that has contributed to our community over many years. She has lived in Coburg for almost 50 years. She came as an infant. She raised a family here. She volunteered and taught for years at Coburg Elementary School, now known as Coburg Charter School. She has lived in several areas, both in the city limits and outside, but adjacent. She helped to restore a historic home. She helped design and build a new and very welcoming home. She has also followed her passion for gardening and parks by serving on the Parks and Tree Committee for 11 years, and is often joined in work parties, in weeding and public areas around town. She could also be seen scrubbing exterior walls, wiping off spider webs, and cleaning up the porch and grounds of the IOOF Hall. She has been a beloved First Lady of Coburg for 6 years, and in 2022 became a gracious courier, translator, communicator, all to help the city continue running smoothly. It is for these reasons that I would like to recognize Claire Smith as Coburg's first citizen for 2022. Thank you for your service, dedication, great laugh, and infectious smile. Come on up, Claire. Yes. Claire would like to as well as the city. Now I'll turn it over to Ann Heath to continue the awards process. Good evening.
I'm gonna go through the city update very quickly. I will not be providing finance information in this update because we'll be doing a substantial financial report in the February council meeting. Tonight, I'm just gonna focus on what is happening in the city. One of the important things to know is the city is in a 5-year capital project era. We have a lot going on. So I'm going to cover some of that. Can you move it forward, Sammy? So everything that we do at the city is based on the council goals. Those are set each February at the council retreat. And all staff projects and work plans are set on these goals, and our budget is set on these goals. We consider all aspects of the community, including the livability, health, and vitality. We're focused on continuing our infrastructure. Operational capacity is very important, making sure that we have the staffing to do the work that's required. Watching the dollars, fiscal stewardship, making sure that we're looking outward. The city actually does a 5-year budget. We only have to do a 1-year budget. but we do a 5-year budget every year. So we're always looking out to make sure that the decisions we're making are carrying the city forward. Economic development, strategic planning, and a real focus on the citizens. So we have many committees that are representing citizens in many ways, and the Planning Commission. And these are our voices for our citizens and making very important recommendations to our city council when needed. The time when the world was standing still or in recovery, Coburg was moving ahead. And I would say that we didn't miss a beat. Our staff came to work, most of them in the office, and our work continued. Sometimes it was a struggle, but we didn't miss a beat in the work of the city. Somewhat delayed sometimes, just simply because that's the way it is right now, but we are moving forward. So these are just a list of things that we're working on and worked on last year. And we can just move that forward. Last year, we have developed quite a bit of plans and also updated important documents. We changed our local street standards to address narrow streets, local historic streets. And that was really important because federal standards would be almost impossible for the upgrade of our streets. We updated the development and zoning code. We adopted a continuation of operations policy, a cybersecurity policy, a capital construction policy, a succession plan, the Coburg Charter, which was approved by the voters, employment policies, and we completed a salary study and updated our pay scale. In the water project, we purchased property for the third well. As the mayor shared, we crossed I-5 and got water to the other side. We are replacing water lines at this time, and we're just completing a feasibility study for elevated water storage. In streets, we completed a huge construction project on Roberts Road and Roberts Court. Mackenzie Street, right downtown here, we redid that street. And the Van Dyne sidewalk. Those two projects mainly are for pedestrian safety. So trying to really create a very safe downtown for people to walk. We completed preservation work in the northwest area of town. And we've really strengthened our partnerships with the county and ODOT, and we're working very closely with them. We participate in the Metropolitan Planning Committee, which is a transportation committee, as well as Lane Act. In park projects, we were successful in gaining grant funds to update the Pavilion Park with as a plaza. We did a land swap in order to gain more property for that plaza. We have new park elements in Norma Fifa Park. We were successful in getting additional money for the Coburg Loop. So when we were first granted money for Coburg Loop, when construction costs started rising, it was no longer enough money to complete the project. So we went out and asked for more money, and we were granted it. So that project will be happening in the future.
Sorry.
Multiple volunteer parties took place in our parks, and our bike kiosk was constructed in Pavilion Park. We've had the city has been very successful in supporting the Coburg Main Street 501c3 nonprofit. And so that the chamber actually folded, and Main Street is taking over the assets of the chamber. So Main Streets will be moving forward to address the needs, economic development needs of the city, and focused on festivals and events and things that support the downtown of the city. We have leased the OF Hall as a community center, completed a brochure and map of and business directory, and there's updates to the website for the chamber website becoming the Main Street website. In planning and development, we did annex property on the east side of the freeway. We are waiting now on the state to approve our wetlands delineation before development can begin there. We have a subdivision in construction right now and a phase 2 coming. Roberts Road Light Industrial Park is in process. Broadband franchise with the FN and installation. You probably have seen them around town installing lines. And so what that means is there are parts of town that will be available, that broadband will be available to you very soon through DFN. A development code update and form-based code for downtown. In public safety, we received some grants for our police to get out into the community and do some important community policing. And what that means is we get reimbursed for our officers' time on the street. And a couple of those, there were more parts to that, but crosswalk safety and seatbelt safety there's 2 parts of that. We did receive a contract from ODOT to do truck inspections. So our officers can be out at the truck stop inspecting trucks or on the freeway, making sure that they are safe. We are part of the sex offender program. So our officers are investigating and making sure that sex offenders are registered and compliant. And we've established quarterly trending reports for the police. So we can look back and see how are we trending on crimes around the city, what kind of crimes are happening compared to last year to this year. So we've been working really hard on that. And our police also helped in assisting with the fires by providing emergency response and policing. We did have some promotions in Coburg. We really focus on our staff being able to look forward and see where they will be when they stay at the city. So we always want them to have a clear path for retiring here, if that works for them. And so we did have some promotions this year. Sarah Affey to utility billing clerk, Megan Winter to associate planner, Mike Lee to police sergeant, Kevin Wilson received his intermediate police certification. Dan Miller, he received his advanced police certification. He also received his firearms instructor certification. And Burke Hansen was promoted to public works supervisor. Ty Wilson received his wastewater treatment certification 1. And the entire public works team received certified certified flaggers. So as we move forward, we still have challenges in the community and we're working on them. These things take time. As the mayor shared, we know there's transportation challenges in the downtown and our staff spends a lot of time in meetings on discussions of ways that we can solve these. One of those is we have been working with the county to get flashing lights on our sidewalks and we have got the go ahead for that. It's going to take some time, but that will happen. We are working on commuter and freight traffic. How do we better manage that? Yeah, bridge replacement, continuation of capital projects in water and streets. And all of this is challenged greatly by the consumer price index and construction costs, which have continued to rise just never ending. It's just every time we price a project, we wait a couple months and we go back and it's more. And so it's a challenge all the time to plan for a project and then realize we have to back off because the price that we thought we were going to build it for is an impossible price to reach now. So staffing capacity is always a challenge. This is a busy city. I like to say it's a small city with big city business. And we truly do have all of the services that big cities provide. And they're great services. And so very proud of the work that the city has done this year. I'm proud of the staff and the council for all the work that has got done. Thank you. Now I get a fun job of announcing our staff member of the year. It's customary for us to recognize an outstanding contribution from a city employee. The employee of the year exemplifies the values of the city of Coburg staff by providing outstanding leadership and customer service, not just to Coburg customers, but to their fellow teammates. This is a nominated position, or a nominated award. I don't get to choose it. If I got to choose it, every employee in this city would be employee of the year because these guys work so very hard and are so dedicated. But it's a nominated award. So they send their nominations to me. I read them and then I choose who will receive the award. This year, they made it really easy on me because every nomination was exactly the same. It was universal. So I'm very happy to award Sarah Affey with the Employee of the Year Award. Sarah is our utility billing specialist and our front office manager. She's the face of the city. She's quick to answer questions and extremely helpful to customers. She maintains a great attitude of service and leadership. She's taking on more duties than in her job description this year, stepping into finance and learning it very quickly. And stepping in wherever she's needed when we're short-staffed. She's a fast learner, multi-talented, and conscientious. But I think what we would all like to say that we love about her most is she's so calm. You cannot rattle her. And in that calmness, that spreads throughout City Hall. She's quiet in her response and extremely thoughtful. And so I am very happy to award you, Sarah. Come on. Mm-hmm. The other thing that we do here at the city is we encourage longevity. And so we do awards for employees who stay with us. And so I have an award here for 5 years, and that goes to Kevin Wilson, Officer Kevin Wilson. Come on up. Thank you. We have to run around.
Well, I could, but it would be really interesting. So thank you again all for coming. We're going to take about a 5-minute break here now, and Sammy can get some pictures. And those of you that want to go off and do something else for the evening are welcome to do that. Those of you who want to stay, hi, Katie. Those of you who want to stay and participate in the city council meeting, you're certainly welcome to do that also. So again, thank you all for coming. And now you're released for 5
The mayor comments, I want on our that any notes.
Turn on your microphones, which I had mine turned off. I apologize for that. So make sure you turn on your microphones. I'm going to pass out the notebooks to each of you for record retention. And there's also inside a thumb drive. I went to a League of Oregon Cities workshop, and so on this thumb drive are the PowerPoints from that workshop. So they were really good. They cover a number of topics that are very salient to us as city council members. I'll consider myself.
I got to sneak.
Everybody have? Just a thumb drive?
One more.
There you go.
Thank
Or one more, okay.
Yeah.
That, and look at that, saying counted the right number. Everybody has a thumb drive. So if you have any questions about what should or should not be retained, laws vary from type of document to type of document, but our city recorder can keep us clear on that. So again, remember to turn on your microphones. Probably need to scoot our microphones closer, make sure that everyone within council chambers can hear, but also for those participating remotely. So one of our orders of business at the first meeting in odd numbered years, and 2023 is an odd numbered year, the council must elect a president from its membership. So the president presides in the absence of mayor and acts as mayor when the mayor is unable to perform duties. And so I was council president, as you know, as Ray was unable to participate in our meetings, then I stepped into that role. So within your package, you have a staff report with a sample motion. And I will now open the meeting for discussion and entertain a motion. If there's any of you that would like to propose or nominate a council president.
To nominate Kyle Blaine for council president. Second.
Is that accepting you, Councilor Blaine?
What's that?
Are you willing to accept the role as council president?
Yes.
All right,
I'm willing.
thank you. So
Yeah.
we have a motion from Councilor Lehman and a second from Councilor Wells to nominate Councilor Blaine to serve as council president through 12/31 of 24. Those in favor, please raise your hands.
Aye.
Any opposed? Al Blaine is nominated and voted in as council president. Thank you for that and welcome.
Thank you.
Sammy, are there any changes to the agenda?
Not any major changes. We do have a few things you guys found in your red folder items. First one was the council president report. Yeah. The second one is a CIS insurance attachment that goes to the city administrator's report. The third one is for the council vacancy and recruitment at the end. Also, that is under the agenda under non-action items, and the charter does require a motion of council on that to declare the vacant.
Okay, and we'll do that at the end of the, okay, end of the agenda. Thanks. Thank you. do we have any citizen testimony tonight? Anyone signed up to provide citizen testimony? No. Just visitors tonight. Welcome. We're glad you're here. So as Sammy said, the agenda item 8 will be the council vacancy and recruitment. And we'll act on that at the end of the agenda. So we have the minutes from December 13th of 2023. If there are no edits, I will entertain a motion. Hope you all had a chance to read the packet.
Yes, I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented. Second.
I have a motion by Councillor Fox and a second by Councillor Blaine to accept the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Hearing none. The consent agenda is accepted as presented. Sorry, I'm trying to back and forth between two different documents or maybe three. We do have a special guest tonight, correct? Mr. Williams, who is here to talk to us about a proposal from Premier RV Resort. And you will find that in your packet. Let's see, which page is that on? Oh, I just found it. Let's see, there is an email from Mr. Williams, and that is on page 8, and a response from Ms. Heath on page 9 and 10. Mr. Williams, would you like to speak to us tonight?
I would.
Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for listening. There's one of you here that have heard me a lot of times. That would be John. But that's the only council person that I recognize. I'm not going to go over the email. I just wanted to give you a brief history for those of you who are newer to this whole Premier saga that we've had. That as you may not know, and I want to make you aware of it, we were induced to be annexed to the city of Hillsborough. That's where I live. No, city of Coburg. Your former city manager, former city police chief, who was also the city manager at the time, annexed to your fine city. And he came and approached me personally and told me that they would really like to annex our property. Now I'm going to jump 4 years after that. Oh, by the way, we agreed to do that, and it was the fastest annexation in the history of years later, I found out that the sole reason that he wanted to do that was that the state had passed a law that didn't allow the city of Coburg to do patrolling of I-5, having part of the city the other side of I-5. And that was, as far as we can tell, the sole reason that at that time they wanted us to be annexed. But the reason that I agreed to that was because he said we were having water problems, domestic water problems. And he said, well, we can take care of that for you. And he pointed to the hill behind us. He said, if you let us annex you, we're going to put a big water storage facility right over there, and it'll be pressure fed right down to your. And I said, when will that happen? He said, it'll happen next year. That's 18 years ago. Then the city decided they wanted to put sewer over there. And I fought that because we had our own sewer treatment plant. But I lost that battle, and so we had to pay some mighty big fees to get hooked up to the city sewer. So in 18 years, the sewer system's fine. We're happy with it now. I'm not complaining about that. But I just want you to be aware of the history and how frustrating it is for us to be sitting here 18 years later and still not have the promised water. And the way I look at that, that's a broken promise. And I think we've got enough documentation that we could prove to a court of law that, we were induced to take that action fraudulently. For a long time, the city had no intention of giving us water. Then when the sewer thing came up, then that became a side issue, the sewer. So I'm here to ask for tonight is a definitive date by. And by the way, as the email will show you, we've been given many different dates over the last 6 years. It'll be next spring, it'll be next fall, it'll be next spring, it'll be next fall. And in the meantime, another well. Very expensive. So my plea is to get a definitive date that everybody can live with, and that we get, I won't use the French word, but we'll get our water. And the other thing that I wanted to throw in the end here that's got nothing to do with water is that we have now also been relegated to be a slum. Property that's next to us, which is traded times, is now, I would challenge you all to drive over there and look at that. It was just a parking lot, been a motel there many years ago, and we leased the parking lot for a couple of years. But we couldn't make an arrangement to lease it longer than that. And ever since we quit leasing it, all the buildings have gone to pieces. There's all kinds of trashy looking cars, trucks. I mean, it couldn't even qualify in most cities to be an industrial zone, I don't think, the way it looks. So I'm pleading for help on that too. Our park has prospered in spite of that, and it's doing well. And so what we're giving to you every year now for the privilege of not having water is we pay you about $40,000 a year in sewer bills, dollars in taxes per year. And just want a little attention.
I do want to say, Mr. Williams, that staff has certainly kept me apprised of the issues as they come up. And I will tell you that I think I can speak for everybody on council, but I certainly know in speaking with our city administrator that we share your frustration. It has been an extremely slow process. I don't know that we can give you an absolute definitive day that this will be completed, but I will defer to Ann. I know that the permits have been put into the state. The state has half a year, 6 months, close to that, in order to respond. And I think when we get to that point, we'll have a better idea of a date. And Ms. Heath, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, just to give some background. So before we can put in a water line, we have to complete the wetland delineation. The developer has to complete that. And there's 2 different permits that are filed with the state for that. The city, because we know that Premier has water concerns, the city went ahead and also filed delineation reports and permits with the state for the area to the north of his property. And so we both filed about the same time. And we both, they have to respond to us by March with their, our permit. So basically, there's a dig out permit and then there's a delineation permit and it's all engineering. But I have spoken with the developer. His first thing that he will do once he receives his permits is to put in a water line. And at this point, once the city gets permits, Premier can choose to either hook up at the south end of their property, which I know is not the best for them. It's not the best case scenario for them because they have to run their the water line through the middle of their property to get to where their water system is. It is in their best interest to wait until the water comes halfway down their property, which would be what the developer's doing. However, we've put in place two different scenarios so that Premier can either hook up at their south end or wait for the developer to then hook up at the middle of their property. We will be, the developers offered a meeting with Premier RV and the city to kind of discuss this at further. We'll have our engineers come in to so that we're all on one page as to how this is going to take place. If Premier gets in trouble with water prior to, that is why the city went ahead and filed the reports and applied for the permits so that if we needed to hook them up quickly, that is possible. Date wise, we're all in waiting pattern for the state and those things do not move fast. As soon as the annexation went through, we went ahead and had our engineers start working on the reports that had to be turned into the state. That takes time. I didn't want to pay for that till we knew we had an annexation. So right now we're in a holding pattern. But I assure all, I want to get you water in the worst way, and I'm working hard at it. And I think Brian feels the same way. We've had a great relationship with Mr. Williams. We feel like we are working as hard as we can to get that done.
So do we have what you said, end of March, we should have the permits back?
Right.
And then at that point, we should have a more definite or definitive
Right.
time and date, approximate date. I mean, things are, in all honesty, and I think you know it probably as well as any of us, everything seems to be taking much longer right now than we had ever dreamed. It's just really difficult to get through processes, but we will direct staff. I have directed staff to work directly with you and with our engineers and with Public Works to move this along as quickly as possible.
I only have one comment. This is another case where annexation has become our foe. But now we're waiting for their annexation. We didn't oppose the annexation. But now we're waiting on the developer of the annexed property to get their stuff together too.
Well, as I understand it, he's already filed date
Yeah.
to put the water line in. It's not waiting for development on the property.
That's not really my point. My point is that we got shuffled to the side because you want to annex another property. That's my point.
I understand that is certainly your perception. I can't respond to that either way.
For discussion, or belabor this, but I mean, it was 18 years ago that you annexed this property into the city. Was there a contract at that point that provided that the city was going to extend water to your property? Did it say how long that would be before we would do that?
I'd have to look at all the records because my memory isn't that good. But I've still got the records.
It was 18
As I
years
said
ago.
in
I
my
get that.
email, I could I can come up with a record. The problem here is probably going to be, I'm just being honest with you, that the gentleman who made those promises is probably lying.
Well, I mean, you might have said that, but if it's written in a contract, that we had a
I think-
obligation.
I think we have correspondence. I don't know if it's in contractual form or not.
I think we're probably getting beyond where we need to tonight. We
Yeah,
certainly
I
do
didn't-
appreciate your frustration, Mr. Williams, and I can tell you that all of us in this room will do our utmost best to make sure that we follow through with what you're asking. I can't give you an exact date, and I wish I could. I wish that we could sit here tonight and say, by this date, it will be, but I will tell you that we will continue to work directly with you, and we will come to a reasonable conclusion to this.
I can also clarify, the water is there.
Right.
We're waiting for the permits, and if Mr. Williams wants to move forward to hook up to the water in the spring, then he can do so at the south end of his property.
We have to get the permits through,
Right.
and that should be towards the end of March or 1st of April. And then that water is ready to be hooked into.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. Have a safe trip home.
Thank you.
Water is an issue, no matter what we do, isn't it? So we have the second reading of ordinance A 199-I, an ordinance amending the Coburg Comprehensive Plan map, and ordinance A 200-M, an ordinance amending the Coburg official zoning map. Council will now conduct the second reading of the ordinances as above. These ordinances were presented at the December 13th, 2022 council meeting, and a public meeting was held. So Ms. Winter will now do the staff presentation.
Thank you. Before you is the second reading of the proposed amendments to two different maps. So there are two changes being proposed. One is the addition of the downtown district to the official zoning map. And that was adopted by council on September 27th, 2022. That is primarily an administrative change. The second is to remove a strip of park, recreation, and open space zoning designation that currently appears on the portion of 3 different lots that are located near City Hall. Staff has done extensive research on the history and the rationale of this park, recreation, open strip space. It is believed that the 1980 comp plan map, the lines for the central business district were fuzzy and hard to delineate. And so staff have believed that it is an error that that strip is placed there. There's also no intention of the city to develop parkland in that location. It is not mentioned in the open space master plan. And so this would remove that strip from the 3 properties from both the zoning map as well as the comprehensive plan. Does anyone have any questions?
Hearing any?
I do have a quick question on the second, on the map, that is regarding where we're adding a map. Is that a copy of that map in here? I'm not sure if I'm clear. Is that this map that's in the packet?
So there are two maps that are being changed, both the official zoning map as well as the comprehensive plan map. And so there is a draft of both of those maps included with the ordinances. Oh,
Page those
It's
are
not
on,
in the
oh, I see. So there is one map on page,
After page 14.
Oh, that's one.
14 and 26.
and 26, yes.
Okay. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay, that's one of them. Turn to page 27. 27. Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Questions?
What's so what's reflected
Counselor
in
Wells?
this, I'm sorry, for what's reflected in this, these are the updated maps, these, okay,
that is correct. Those are the
Okay, all right.
proposed draft maps.
gotcha.
This was previously the green with been that section.
Correct. And that is no longer there. Yes.
So that's on page 26, referring to that. Any other questions or comments? If not, I will entertain a motion to accept the second reading of the ordinances as proposed.
I move to adopt ordinance A 200M, an ordinance amending the official zoning map, and ordinance A-199I, an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan map.
Is there any debate on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Hearing none. The motion passes 5-0. I should mention also that with our reduced council numbers right now, our quorum is, we need 3 votes to pass anything. So it's a majority. Moving on to the next resolution is a resolution applying construction cost inflation factor to existing system development charges. And we have a staff report by Megan Winter. Thank you, Megan, for leading us through these things.
Yes, absolutely. My pleasure. So this is an annual item. It's relatively routine. Each year, the city applies a construction cost inflation factor to our system development charges. This year, 5.6%. This number was researched by Branch Engineering and is based on a 20-city regional number.
Yeah.
And average, that was what I was looking for. Thank you. And so staff recommends to add the 5.6% increase to the city's system development charges.
We would entertain a motion. Are there any questions for
Yes,
Ms. Winter? Counselor Fox.
My only question is, this is an annual procedure of which they do this 20-city average. We get a number. I know, I'm anticipating the answer, but I have to ask it, can this be automated? So they're just doing this?
Rather than us voting on it?
Well, you could vote to not do it. I mean, I think that would
No,
be.
no, that wouldn't be the idea.
We have to entertain it.
Or you could, council has the opportunity to change the percentage. This is just,
But we have to look at it
Okay,
every
we
year.
have to look at it.
you have to look at it.
We
and
have to do it.
There we go.
We just
Just like we look
consistently
at the,
use
yeah.
the same data. So that every year we're using the consistent data.
Any other questions?
I'm
Counselor
sorry,
Wells.
is the systems development charges are based on the anticipated cost of the project, right? Isn't that typically?
To increase the city infrastructure that will be used by the new development.
But correct me if I'm. wrong.
Yes, so basically it's a very expensive study that the city has done periodically about every 5 years. And they take our capital construction list, all of the capital construction, and they place a value on it. And that is how we come up with the costs of the infrastructure in the capital projects. We last, I believe, adopted the new methodology 2 years ago. So then it is just updated annually.
Yeah, I'm not asking the question. I thank you. I understand that, but I'm not asking the question right. But the basis for the calculus is the cost of the project, right? Or the number of fixtures or the number of the square footage of the project, right?
How the city calculates system
Yeah,
development
right.
charges? Yes, it depends on the use of the development. It depends on the number of equivalent dwelling units. So it varies by whether it's residential or commercial, have different calculations.
Okay. But
How many employees will be there?
Right.
The square footage,
but
there's.
not based on the estimated project cost. Because
No.
otherwise it
No.
would seem like
No,
we're double
well,
dipping. Yeah,
no.
It's the impact on city infrastructure.
And I
And I think
understand.
that's what we're.
Thank you.
So just to be clear for all counselors, we have 4 SDCs, water, sewer, streets and parks. Each one of them are calculated differently. And it's a national standard for how they are calculated.
And so that table is on page 37, the various different SDCs.
So this is the minimum for starting whatever building you're gonna build, regardless of if you're building a small little house, this is the minimum, and then it would move up based on multifamily, commercial, et cetera.
Anything else? Elena,
I move to approve resolution 2023-01, approve annual inflation factor of 5.6% to be applied to the city of Coburg existing system development charges.
or a second?
Second.
Counselor Fox. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Say aye. Is 5-4. Any opposed? The resolution is passed as presented. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, who is your second?
Counselor Fox. Right along. Sammy, can we go ahead and put in? Well, Brian's already up here, so I guess I best not do that. We'll.
I can go away.
No, you can't. Thank you. So we're gonna do council action items and so staff report by Brian Harmon.
Good evening, everybody. Just want to welcome the new council members and congratulate you on your elections and re-election. This is a housekeeping thing we do every January. We don't have anybody new or anybody that left and anybody new that's wanted to join the Parks and Trees Committee. So all of the names are the same as last year. Everybody has said they would like to stay aboard. So it's just a housekeeping thing where we need to appoint those individuals to the committee.
Is it, that's part of their bylaws, is it? It
Yes,
has to
ma'am.
be done
Yep.
annually. Yes. Thank you.
Mhm.
So I will entertain a motion to recommend to the mayor that we reappoint the counselor or the committee members as listed in your suggested motion. And that would be Karen Curry, Tom Beatty, Colleen Marshall, Lana Meston, Joe Morneau, Mary Mosier, and Claire Smith as the 7 voting members of the Park and Tree Advisory Committee for 2023.
I move to recommend that Mayor Bell appoint Karen Corey, Tom Beatty, Colleen Marshall, Lana Meston, Joe Morneau, Mary Mosier, and Claire Smith as the 7 voting members of the Park Tree Citizen Advisory Committee for the calendar year of 2023.
We have a motion by Councilor Blaine. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilor Engebretson. You're going to have to help. Yeah, I apologize.
That's okay.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
You. So I will, per the 2022 charter and the consent of the council, I appoint Karen Curry, Tom Beatty, Colleen Marshall, Lana Meston, Joe Morneau. That's a name I struggle with too. I'm sorry about that. Mary Mosier and Claire Smith to serve as the voting members of the Park and Tree Committee for the 2020. They do a lot of work, and I think we can all be very proud of the work that they do. We have an administrative monthly report by Ann Heath.
So normally, I don't go line by line on my report. I assume council has read it, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Want to remind the council of some dates, especially the the work session on the 24th. Where we'll be receiving the water report, a feasibility report, and also the council retreat on February 4th. And I'm happy to answer any questions, or any staff members that are present can answer questions.
I'm just a little curious about the OMA response to the homeless funding. I see that we're getting $52,600.
If it's approved in the budget. So
It's
this is
approved.
OMA asking the legislation.
Okay. And is that-
Legislators to approve funding to cities to address homelessness.
That is based on the population of the city, and so the Oregon Mayors Association, prior to the election of the new governor, put forth a proposal, and each city that wanted to be involved put together a 1-page document about what we would use the funds for and what we needed, but the amounts are based on the population of the city. So
so like from what I'm reading, it looks like new heat and air conditioning and kitchen appliances for Iowa, which would be used.
So
as, like,
that's a
shelter.
separate pot of money.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the 52.6 is for the items listed here that our council said that those were the probable things that we would fund. There's a separate capital amount that would be released to cities based on what we put forward. Initially, when I would talk with them, we didn't have any capital projects. And so they were like, well, you probably shouldn't put anything forward then. But after talking with them, we were able to come up with ideas and give them an estimate of cost and actually get our name in for a capital project to address some things in the city. So we were able to do that during a meeting with them. And so it's two different pots of money that if they're approved, Coburg would stand to get not just the first 52.6, but then also a capital project.
Those, either of those funds, would those would go to food bank as well.
We contacted the folks that run the food bank and asked, we felt like perhaps the food bank would have some needs, and they confirmed that. What their request was a storage, a secure storage building, because when they do food drives, excuse me, and things like that, they have excess and they have really nowhere to put it. And so a secure storage area, plus there was the need to have it climatically controlled, so a heating and so based on their input and estimated costs, then Ann and I worked together and came up with, we ended up $75,000 for the
75.
yeah. Be able to add to those projects. So hopefully we get funded. That would be great. And if we don't, then we'll be, as a council, looking for other funding sources.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, I'm so sorry.
So I was on the interview team when we interviewed our last finance director. Do you have another council member on this interview team?
Yeah, I haven't put that together yet, but yes. If you'd like to be on that interview team, just send me an email.
Okay, so John Clark stands for.
How many candidates do we have?
Well, we just, it was just posted, so, and it's open for the rest of the month,
Oh,
till
so we were
February
saying
3rd.
last we
For
hired-
Tim Gaines.
Okay, I misunderstood Counselor Lehman. Yep. Anything else? Thank you, Anne. Oh,
questions?
Oh, he
Counselor
did
Fox.
If Brian can answer my question. So we had put some signs in, but I wasn't thinking about the signs. I was thinking about throughout town, we have stop signs and other directional signs. And there's a myriad of supporting structures. There's the old steel poles, which hopefully never get used again. And then we have 4x4s that for the most part are not pressure treated, but they're there. And then we have the breakaway pulley guns. Are we moving forward with a consistent plan of shoving signs so it's not scatterplot?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Every time a sign gets knocked down, a new standardized post goes in for the breakaway. So we're trying to eliminate those as they fall over or start leaning. Yeah. So,
Okay.
yep, they do work. You can ask Sammy. I did want to mention one other thing. I've done 3 council tours for council members. If you haven't taken a tour of the treatment plant and you would like to before the retreat, shoot me an email and we can get that scheduled.
I went last Thursday and excellent. A lot of time.
It's really very informative, isn't it?
Mayor Bell,
Yes, oh, I'm sorry.
I apologize. I don't remember where I saw something, but I do have a question. Or just maybe a comment or it was somewhere in here where we were talking, it was talking about, I was in the packet somewhere and I apologize if I'm on the wrong section, but just one thing I've heard it before, that we aren't requiring street lights in new developments evidently. And the comment that I read was that it's because people in Coburg want to have that dark skies approach for helping wildlife, which I'm fully supportive of. But I have also heard that a lot of jurisdictions, rather than having no streetlights, simply tailor their streetlights in a way that does not impact wildlife. So since I read it in here and I thought about it before, I thought I would just mention that I think there's ways to have streetlights. So you can have, you know, a little bit better safety. Things like just having like a lamp, a lampshade, so that it points the
Yeah,
light
the light that
downward.
goes down.
Yeah, also things like this sort of the type of color that the light, like spectrum that the light emits. Just thought I would mention that.
So if I recall correctly, our code does not require streetlights. So again, if we're going to require streetlights, then we have to be looking at our code. And as we start to update our code, I think that that's probably one of the things that will come to the surface. The way that we've sort of skirted around that issue is now requiring conduits to be put down that will allow wiring for streetlights to go in much more easily than with our previous developments, and also fiber optic cable. So rather than digging everything up, the conduit will already be there. I think I have that correctly. Yes. Councilor Fox.
I think that's a great point. Councilor Igerson brings up, because everybody knows I'm all over minimizing ambient light, but we also, there's safety involved too. When trick-or-treaters out, so anything that can complement that idea of dark sky, and there's lots of ways to do it. As a matter of fact, the only illustrated portion of code has lots of light ideas. We can get them to the turn of the century.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely. Councilor Lehman.
So the number of questions and issues, comments and everything that we talked about, are we going to be able to see this get included into our retreat? Are we going to have input in agenda? Do we haven't been set yet?
We are in the process of collecting ideas. I have many ideas. I know that will really surprise you. But I have many ideas for our retreat. And certainly if you have, any of you have comments or things that you would like included in the retreat, please send them to me or to Anne, and we will make sure that those are included. The retreat is meant to be a forum where we can really have a conversation and discussion and work on something. So thank you for that.
And also, if you want to see things that are placed on the work plan as part of the next budget year work plan, you can send that to me as well, and I'll include it in the work plan for the council to review. So that way it's there ahead of time. You don't have to come up with the idea.
So that would be the, you know, the grid that has
grid,
all of the
it's really helpful if counselors have ideas that, hey, I'd like the council to the staff to take on this work plan item. That it doesn't mean that it's going to get adopted by the council, but at least it's there to look at when you have the discussion on the work plan.
So for example, I'd like to say that we have 10 minutes to discuss the alley issue. And we have 10 minutes to discuss the update on the noise issues with the industrial area. We have 10 minutes to talk about the signs, you know, the violations of the signs and issues with signs around town. So that's kind of my thought, is we collect some ideas and just maybe dedicate a moment of time to discuss it, and see if we want to further discuss it at next council meeting.
put those in writing and send them our way, and try and incorporate those. I hear that you're going to be here 24 hours for that meeting now.
Starts at 9 o'clock, right?
Well, we could start it earlier.
What's for breakfast?
That's a great question. There are a
will
lot
be
of things.
breakfast.
Yeah, there will be breakfast. That's starting at 7. No, starting at 9.
To 9.
To 9. It'll just be 12 hours, not 24. That's so reasonable, aren't we? For sure. Okay, so thank you for that. That was a great discussion. Now we'll talk about council vacancy and recruitment. And I think that is a red folder item, Tammy, and I'll turn that over to you.
So with Nancy being elected as the mayor, we have a 2022 charter that requires the council declare with a majority vote of council that declare the vacancy. So that's what I'm asking you guys to do tonight, and then we will start the recruitment process and move forward with filling the position.
We need a motion to declare a council vacancy based on our charter.
I move to declare a city council vacancy.
Thank you. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Oh, that was a motion by Councilor Wells and a second by Councilor Fox. Did I get that right? Right in there. We declare a city council vacancy. All of those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? So we have 5, 4, and none opposed, so the motion carries. We even need to go back to the 3. Good. Upcoming agenda items. We have the 2023-24 goals and work plan. And the quarterly police and finance report and an audit presentation. We're doing that tonight.
The audit presentation.
February.
So, that's a question I want to ask the council. So the Finance and Audit Committee is taxed with receiving the audit. And they are recommending committee. So the council can receive the audit yourself and have the auditor come to your meeting, or the auditor can go to the Finance and Audit Committee meeting. And that committee can make a recommendation to council that you accept the audit. And it's really up to the council how you feel about that. I can do either way, and I think that the auditor is open to what you would like to do. But it doesn't necessarily have to take up council time. You have some really heavy agendas, but it's up to you. So if you want to give me direction on that, I will make it happen.
Question, do we have a finance audit committee standing already?
Yes,
I'm on it as a council representative.
And Kathy's on it, and I think, well, I think, yeah,
I was on it at least.
yeah,
One-
she's,
One of the things that we'll be talking at council retreat is trying to figure out who's liaison for various committees. And yes, as we move from one committee and into another commitment, how does that work? What do
I
we do?
wonder if counselor, you would be willing to attend the next meeting, and if you're going to resign, then you could still receive the audit, if that was the choice, and then then it would be a full committee making a recommendation.
And we all get copies of the.
Yes,
You just need direction on that?
yeah, I just need staff direction, nods to say yes, who would prefer that the audit committee receive the audit.
So we'll have the finance and audit committee make a recommendation to council, receive the audit, and then make a recommendation to council.
And you have that next date.
It's January 31st or 30th
31st, January 31st is
Yeah.
the Finance and Audit Commission
Tuesday.
based on the upcoming meetings list.
And the audit's done. I just have been reviewing it, and I had some questions that I shot back at them. And so I'm waiting for their response.
Is that 7 still, or are we moving those to 6?
I think that's at 5:30.
5:30?
Oh, it's neither
different.
one of those, Karen. Don't know why you can't keep track, honestly.
city council to 6? Or are we staying at 7?
Well, that will be a topic at retreat also. We
Make
need-
that topic. 6?
We need to change
Council rules.
council rules. We'll need to change those officially if we're gonna move it. It does get us out of here earlier and gives us time for some bulky agenda items sometimes. Not going so far. I think then we've hit everything on the agenda for our very first council meeting of 2023. Congratulations to all. Thank you for new counselors and continuing counselors for continuing to accept the responsibility as not a light responsibility being on city council. I have found. We put our, sometimes our personal thoughts aside and personal preferences and really have to think about what's the best for our community members and the city rather than just what I'd like I want more stop signs. No, it doesn't work that way, but anyway. So thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. We'll see you again on the 24th. And then again on February 4th for our retreat. Oh, with that, let's see, we are adjourning at, I never can find the time, 7:40. Thank you.